So I'm back here with another flagship mobile phone, but this one here to unbox today and check out is from Meizu. Now, it's been a long time since I've looked at a Meizu phone. The last one was about a year ago, in fact, over a year ago. But I've really always liked their design. Their build quality is very good. So this phone here didn't resort to a notch. It has slim bezels, a very nice body to screen to body ratio, and it has a Super AMOLED panel, which is 6.5 inches with a resolution of 2160 by 1080. It also has, with that panel, an in-screen fingerprint reader. So this will be now the third mobile phone I'm checking out with this relatively new tech, and it's good to see it coming through with more mobile phones. So the battery capacity is 3,570 milliamp hours. It has an interesting camera on the rear, quite well spec'd you could say. 12 megapixels with an f1.8 aperture, 1.55 micrometer pixel size, which is kind of on the larger side there. But it does have optical image stabilization as well, which is 4-axis optical image stabilization, dual pixel autofocus, phase detection autofocus, I must add there. So the focus should be really good, rock solid. I've noticed that on other phones that have that tech that they're normally really good. And it does have a 20 megapixel selfie camera on the front.
The box here you can see is rather plain. It just says 16th Plus on the front of it. And here we have the phone. So it looks like someone has already taken the screen protector off this, sadly. So I'm not the first one to touch it. So the back of it there also has a protector on it. We'll take a look at the phone in detail in just a minute, but we'll have a look at what else is inside the box. So here we have possibly a case. Hopefully they actually include a case, would be nice. Yes, it looks like we do have one here. So this looks like a clear hard case. So they've just got some instruction warranty thing here. That's all in Chinese. A VIP card. Not really relevant to anyone outside of China. And here is our cable, so obviously USB to Type-C. And here is the case. So the case is a little different here. I can see that it's one of those hard style ones, so not the typical TPU you'd get with the likes of Xiaomi, for example. So a hard, clear case that just clips on and gives protection to the corners. Then inside the little box on the side, we have the SIM tool, which has that Flyme logo. So the OS they use is Flyme OS, and it's Android 8.0, not 8.1. And here is our charger, which should be Qualcomm Quick Charge 3 rated, which it is with a maximum rating of 12 volts, 2 amps. So just checking now on the weight of the phone, it does feel relatively light. So it's 185 grams and just 7.7 millimeters thin, but that's without the camera. So with the camera, it does protrude a little, as you can see. That then brings it up to 8.7. So it's only about a millimeter thicker, the camera. So this is quite a stunning looking phone. So you'll see on the rear there, we've got that 6 LED flash. It does include dual tone flash in there as well. So that's one of the trademarks really from Meizu. And then the dual cameras on the back. So one is 12 megapixels with 4-axis optical image stabilization, dual pixel phase detection autofocus. The secondary camera is 20 megapixels, and that one has an aperture, I think it's f2.0. And the corners here, they are rounded. A very smooth glass-like finish on the back that just looks really excellent. The build quality and finish is spot on. This is a premium mobile phone. So our SIM tray on the side is just dual nano SIM, sadly. So there's no micro SD card support. And another no for this phone is no band 20 for those that need it. For example, if you live in Sweden or Switzerland, I think, where it's a common LTE band. I just show you that it's metal. There isn't a rubber gasket around the SIM tray either. So no level of water protection or splash resistance or dust resistance even there for dust getting in eventually to that SIM tray. But normally it's not a problem. So down the bottom you'll see we've got this metal frame all around. It's rounded and it has a polished metal look to it and feel a lot like the Samsung Galaxy S8 and the S9. You'll see we've got a microphone, loudspeaker, the Type-C port, and the antenna lines. Now they didn't do anything stupid like removing the 3.5mm headphone jack there. So it's great to see this on board a flagship. The volume and power buttons on the side, these are made out of metal. They don't rattle around. They have a very good feel to them. So everything on this phone is premium. You also see that we've got 2.5D glass. There is our 20 megapixel front-facing camera with an f2.0 aperture, and then the earpiece. So Meizu's solution for the earpiece without having to resort to a notch was to just push it right up to the top here. And I prefer this approach. As many as you know, I'm not a big fan of notches on phones. And the bottom chin, you can see it's quite small, not large enough really to have any capacitive menu keys in there. And here it is with the case on, so a very minimalistic approach here for the protection. Personally, I would like to have the sides fully covered there because the sides are a little bit slippery, and this is really just protecting the camera, I guess, against scratches on the lens. So as you can see, if you place this flat down on a table, then that camera lens is not going to get scratched. Okay, so time to power it up for the first time. So holding down that power button, I get a vibration. Those blacks are looking very deep because it is a Super AMOLED panel from Samsung. And I imagine that this has probably already been set up or put in English. So Flyme OS, as I mentioned before. Okay, so it is in Chinese, as you can see. As expected, it's a Chinese mobile phone, so I'll have to change it over into English. So take a look at those side bezels. Look how slim they are, very slim. This looks great. And the screen so far is impressive. Super AMOLED panel, of course. Blacks are looking deep. Now I can see with the ROM, they've gone with quite a high DPI there. You can see because of the size of the text and then the clock there as well. So obviously I think I've just got to swipe up, get rid of the notifications there. It's just asking me about the cellular data, so I can enable that. Now it is actually set in English, which surprised me because all of those notifications, so you swipe down with Flyme and you get all the notifications. Of course, I'm going to clear them all out now, but look at them all in Chinese. So this is one of the problems with this ROM, that you're still going to get this. You're still going to see Chinese on here, so it's a little bit annoying. So I'm just going to kill all that off now. I can see that Trading Shenzhen have put Google Play Store on there for me, which is great. So yes, we do have some bloatware on here. One of them is called Welfare Center at the top there. I don't know what that is about. That's probably the translation gone wrong with something with one of Meizu's apps. So system apps, there is a few things in there. Now, a lot of this actually isn't bloat. So it looks like there's a migration tool and download smart voice. They have some sort of smart assistant thing on here as well. I think when you hold down this button, no, I think it's when you swipe, no, not swipe up. So swipe up is to go to your recents. There's that assistant that I was talking about. So I was just telling us a little bit there to long press and swipe the navigation bar to continuously switch multiple apps. Okay. So the phone is running Android 8.1, not Android 8.0, which I thought it might be. Security patch levels from June the 1st, and it's Flyme 7.1.3. Now, why my thumb is right here is because I'm covering up the IMEI numbers, which you should not expose publicly because people could end up using them. So I'm going to go right ahead now and set up my fingerprint because I'm very curious to see how fast this is. Will it be as fast as the Mi 8 Explorer? That was probably one of the fastest I've checked out so far. So I place my finger. I'm going to use my I'm going to use this finger. I was going to use my thumb, but that's in the way too much there. So, okay, you have to do this 10 times, I would imagine. And it's not super quick. Alright, so the phone is unlocked, as you can see. Now I've set up my fingerprint, I've set up my face as well, so there is face unlocking. What I'm going to do now is test the face unlocking first. So I'm going to lock the phone and unlock it, look at it, and boom, straight into the UI. That is very quick. Do that again. Okay, a little bit slower there. That's because I got the camera and the tripod in the way. But now I want to just angle it away from me and use the fingerprint unlocking. So, lock it, fingerprint. That's pretty quick. I think that's almost as quick as the Mi 8 Explorer. Maybe not quite as fast. Do that one more time. Yeah, so it's about almost 2 seconds. About 2 seconds. But for me, that is perfectly fine considering we don't have a fingerprint reader on the rear anymore. Okay, so looking at the screen now in a little bit of detail, I've measured the brightness, and you have to turn off the automatic brightness in order to get maximum brightness. So it's similar to other phones when it does that, but normally other phones are actually the other way around, like Samsung. It tops out at 880 lux. This is really good. So in sunlight, you can make it out really well. I did test it just out from the balcony here. So the gamma comes out to be about 2.4, somewhere between 2.4 and 2.5. So it's a little off. Ideally, it should be around 2.2. That is when one of these bars pretty much looks the exact same color as the background image. Now, the reason why the text looks so massive on the screen is because Meizu's gone with a DPI. So this is like basic scaling really for the display of 480, which is really huge. I'd like to see that a lot lower. Something like 380 or whatever would be a lot better, even 420. So if I had a custom ROM on this, the first thing I would do was set that DPI a bit lower. Now, real world images, they do look really good on the screen. And I think it's the Pentile matrix they're using with the pixels. Like if you look really, really close, you can see it's that kind of angled position of each pixel, but I mean you need to look at it super close. So normal viewing distances, the screen looks perfectly fine, unless you decide to break out a magnifying glass, will you really see any pixels on this. But overall, deep blacks, good colors, the reproduction. The white balances are a little off out of the box, but overall, very decent, and as mentioned, super bright at 880 lux. So the phone has two speakers. We've got the earpiece, which doubles as a loudspeaker. Now, I just want to mention the audio quality out of the 3.5mm headphone jack. Just tested it out. It sounds really good to me. It could be a little bit louder, but it's clear. There's no interference, there's no static, which is a good thing. Voice quality as well. With calls, I noticed the earpiece is a bit better actually than others. It's better than the Mi 8, I think. I also think it's better than my Honor Note 10. The call quality from that earpiece at the top. So that's also a loudspeaker. So I'll give you a demonstration now of what to expect from the loudspeakers on this mobile phone. So one down the bottom and then that one. Alright, so it's not the loudest speaker you've heard from that, but I feel, to me, the volume is sufficient enough. The quality of it is okay. It's mostly just the mids and the bass that comes out the bottom speaker, and more just treble from the top. So the top is just filling a little bit of sound there and aiding it. The system that other manufacturers use as well. But overall, this loudspeaker, to me, is good. So I'd love to show you the Antutu score, but I'm having problems here. I've been for the last 30 minutes trying to get it to work, 40 minutes almost, and every time I do this, you can test, and it just will not work. It's trying to download the 3D Bench data, and I've used APK Mirror, I've installed APKs, I've used Google Play Store. Google Play Store will not let me install it, but expect a score of around 270,000 upwards. ROM Info reports as what I expected, so security level 3. This means Netflix in HD, full HD, that's not going to work. You need level 1 for that. This happens a lot with Chinese tech here. It's just one of the cons. GPS working fine. Accuracy hovers around 4 to 5 most of the time. It doesn't tend to lock onto everything it sees for some reason. So not the greatest GPS performance compared to other Snapdragon 845 devices I have tested. But it is still good though. Wireless, so testing out just the raw performance basically between the phone and the router. You get around 400 megabits per second. So this is fast. I mean, this is faster than a lot of people's laptops, the wireless they have in their laptops, even wireless AC. 4G speeds, nothing wonderful here. So I can get 4G in Spain. There, as I mentioned, there is no band 20. So if you need that in your country, then this obviously is not the phone to go for. So the speeds aren't that great. Now this could be all dependent on the tower that it was connected to, how much use is going through it. But it seems to hover around here. So maybe it's not the optimum band it's using for me here with 4G. But at least the speeds, I mean, they're okay. These are more like 3G sort of speeds that we're getting there at the moment. Internal storage, very quick, so it's UFS 2.1 spec. You can see with the sequential reads and writes, no problems, and zero bottlenecks here from the storage. And this was the error I was getting with Antutu, even when I tried to use Google Play Store. So as you'd expect for the Snapdragon 845 and the 6GB of RAM that my version has, and that fast storage, this is Lineage 2 on the highest settings, and it is perfectly playable. Keeping up with everything. You see the occasional little stutter just when things load in initially at the beginning, but that happens with every device that I have tested out there. So really good gaming performance. So other titles that are demanding as well, for example, PUBG on the high settings, that's going to be playable, the high frame rate with this chipset here. And everything looks really good with this nice, large, immersive screen. Now I have noticed that after gaming for 20 minutes that it is getting rather warm on the back, so just around this area here is obviously where the chipset is and the thermal transfer pipe or the copper heatsink. And I just checked those temperatures now, so it's getting up to around 32, almost 33 degrees there, which is still perfectly fine, but you do notice that it is getting warm. Now when taking a look at the ROM performance, overall it's slick, it's fast. Everything seems to load in quite good as you expect for the storage and the spec of this phone here. No problems there. I really do like the display. It's a very nice display here, as you can see, vibrant. And hopefully that's coming through on camera, just how good this looks. So in person it looks even better. Liking the slim bezels either side. So obviously with the UI, it's only got English and Chinese. There's no international ROM for this yet. And you will notice with some of the widgets, like this one here, for example, the translation isn't 100%. So there is still some Chinese here and there. But things like the dialer, for example, there is no Chinese in this. And sometimes you see that on Xiaomi's English and Chinese only ROM. You'll be some sort of contacts there that will pull through in Chinese, but not the case with this one. So getting used to the UI, the way it works, using just this as the home button and you're swiping up, that of course brings up all your recent apps. And look how smooth this is. That is with quite a few things loaded in there. Swapping between these apps is quite quick as well. So there's no real slowdowns with this phone that I have noticed in normal kind of use here. So your toggles from anywhere, really, you just got to swipe down and that brings in your toggles. You can see there was perhaps a little bit of a delay there with that. So, but overall, good performance here from the ROM. Now, battery life, I can see already just from estimates, you're looking around 8 to 9 hours of continual on-screen time. It's at least a 2-day battery life mobile phone. Charge times as well. I did a quick little test and my rough estimate, remember this is an estimate calculation, is just over 2.5 hours to fully charge this mobile, I believe. And now looking at the camera. So this is the stock camera application. We've got all your typical kind of modes here that you'd expect on the flagship. So funny snap is like Samsung's. They're just going to put like bunny rabbit ears on photos and things like that, beautifying and all that thing. It can make your eyes bigger. I won't show you an example of that because I'm sure most people know what that's all about. So the portrait mode with the blurred backgrounds using the dual cameras. Your photo mode. Not a lot of settings in here really because all we've got is the timestamp, device watermark, aspect ratio, and that really is it. Now, one thing I've noticed that's slightly annoying with the video mode that is that it will always tend to default, or whenever you reboot the system, back to full HD. And yeah, it's done it again. So in fact, I haven't actually rebooted this. I'm pretty sure I just exited the camera app. So video size, you always have to go back in here and then set it to 4K all the time when you want to record in 4K. So we have optical image stabilization, but no electronic image stabilization, which is a little bit sad to see. But I'll give you some samples. But before I do that, I will just show you the Pro mode, which is the other one of interest. Okay, slow mode as well. So slow mode there. These are the settings we have. Well, basically nothing there for the slow mode. But I will show you. Here is Pro mode. So Pro mode, we've got the shutter rate, ISO, exposure, your focus, and then white balance. Now this right here is your ×2 mode. So you've got ×2 up to ×3 digital zoom. That's all it is. And ×3, very grainy. I would probably never actually ever use that. And there's something right here called 20 megapixels, so the high resolution photo mode. That's using that auxiliary sensor there with the f2.0 aperture. So this is a sample of the front-facing camera. It has a f2.0 aperture and only 1080p maximum on this, and it does not have any electronic image stabilization on the front cam here, so you can see it does shake around. Overall, the quality looks to be reasonable, but I really wish they would do what OnePlus are doing and Huawei and add some electronic image stabilization just to steady things out a little bit. Would make this video a lot more usable. So this is now the rear camera. This one can shoot in 4K. Now you have to go into the settings each time, almost each time, and set it to 4K because it ends up defaulting back to 1080p, which is a little bit annoying. This used to happen on the old Xiaomi phones. So it has optical image stabilization. This is 4-axis, and it's not as good as electronic image stabilization. Now I did test out open camera, and sadly it is not working with that electronic image stabilization. So the quality of the video, the 4K itself seems alright. The focus, sometimes you see some hunting, which is a little bit of a surprise considering it does have that dual pixel face detection autofocus. I'll just demonstrate that now. So it locks onto my hand here. You can see it takes a little while, but the transition is rather fast. So the focus overall is not bad at all. Now if I tap the ×2 and get some zoom here, as you can see, but you need to hold it really, really still. It shakes all over the place. And then even a ×3 zoom as well. You get the same for photos, but now you can definitely see that that's digital zoom and not so great. So I'll turn that off here. So overall the quality seems okay, but not quite as good as I feel as other flagships because it is lacking that electronic image stabilization. I'll just demonstrate again the stability of the video here. Walking, so not the greatest.
Alright guys, so to recap here, so we have an excellent build quality here with the Meizu 16 Plus. It is premium, very good. It reminds me a little bit, at least the frame around the outside, the finish of it and the color of Samsung's premium top ends like the Galaxy S8, the S9, and then the Note 9 as well, the build there in terms of that. So if you do drop it, the outside metal is going to ding up and have awful looking scratches and things. So a case is highly recommended, and more so because the back of it is also glass, and if you're in winter and you've got cold hands, this thing is super slippery, and even when you place it down on a table, it does tend to slide around a little bit there. So they have included that free case. It's a little bit cheap, but I'm not really having a go at them. I just think they should have maybe stepped up the case and put something that's slightly higher quality, considering that this phone is quite expensive for what it is. So the screen is very nice, Super AMOLED panel. Now it's not a 1440p panel, so it's not super sharp, but at normal viewing distances, like what you'd use like now, you don't see the pixels, it's perfectly fine there. Very bright too, but you must disable the auto brightness to really maximize that brightness. So you just ramp up that setting onto the max, and then you get the 880 lux, and you do notice that, so it's really good. So in terms of battery life, I haven't done a full complete test of this, but I can see already from estimates that I'm getting from GSAM Battery Monitor and just looking at it, that you're going to be able to get at least about 8 hours of continual on-screen time. That's the test that I normally do, so I just use it non-stop, mostly on wireless, and on data you expect slightly less than that. So it will be a 2-day mobile phone, at least for most people. So very heavy use, it's going to definitely make it through a whole day, considering that it's got that 3570 milliamp hour battery in there. So the loudspeakers, they do sound good, not the loudest I've heard. It's great to have a secondary loudspeaker in the earpiece. The earpiece quality seems quite good to me as well. It's better than my Honor Note 10. That's one of my complaints with that particular mobile phone, that it tends to distort when you hear someone talking on the other end at not even higher or maximum volumes on the earpiece. But this one just sounds a little bit better there, which is great there. So the UI, Flyme UI, is not going to be for everyone, especially if you must have the UI in your own language. So if you want to have it in German, for example, there's no option for that. So it's either English or Chinese, and even when you have it in English, the translation is mostly there for everything, but when it comes to your widgets, no. I haven't noticed any bugs with my afternoon using this, and I've noticed that the performance has been really quite good, very smooth, good at multitasking, changing, going through things. So that front fingerprint reader, I will just demonstrate that again. So place my finger there, and it unlocks. It is very fast. Now there was a setting there that it would first go to the lock screen, then you have to swipe up, or you would have the password there. Sorry, with the face unlocking as well would do that. So in the settings, once you figure that out, you can have it just go straight into the UI. So I'll demonstrate the face unlocking again. So just tap it now to unlock, and then look at it, and there we go. I mean, it unlocks. It's pretty quick, very quick. The fingerprint reader, I think, is maybe just a fraction slower than the Xiaomi Mi 8 Explorer edition that I reviewed, but overall, really good. So to me, the downfalls of this phone would be the lack of micro SD card support, even though we've got relatively high storage options, very fast storage as well. It would probably be the Band 20 that some people may need, and just the UI. The UI is the biggest thing. And I've also noticed too, the cameras, I don't think the video quality and the cameras in general can take a very good photo. I just feel that the optimization that Meizu are not really up there. So it's not the best, definitely, when it comes to camera quality due to their optimization. I feel others do it better. Now, if you look at the main brands like your Huawei's, your Samsung, your Apple and all that, those flagship phones will take a better photo, I feel, than this one right here. So overall, very nice hardware. It's just some things with the software that will bug some people. So bear that in mind if you're going to be thinking about buying one of these. Oh, and it's also quite expensive compared to other Chinese brands. Meizu have always been up there with the price. Thanks a lot for watching this lengthy review, and I do hope to catch you back in the channel with perhaps some follow-up videos of this model and other, of course, phones that will be coming out in the future.